Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Linda. This is Kneppwood Cottage, and today I am going to show you how I make my super cute clip-on hair bows. And so this one is some Harry Potter fabric that I had left over from back when we were all still making face masks. And actually I think my face mask video was like one of the first videos I ever posted on my other channel, and it was because at the time we couldn't find elastic, and so I was showing how you could use pantyhose or knee highs in place of elastic. So anyway, so that video is way over there. But today I'm showing you how I've actually changed up my bows, because I think these will be a lot cuter. And so yeah, I'm all about making sure that things look finished and polished, and this is how I was previously doing it, and it's cute. I just, you know, with like the fabric center, and then you just kind of like slip the clip in. These ones I actually wrap my clip, and then I just hot glue everything onto the bow, and I just think it looks so much tidier being wrapped. And then you can see it's wrapped through there. Now, because of the type of clips that I use a narrow ribbon so it doesn't interfere with the teeth on these ones. So they actually do have good grab. So, I mean, you get an idea. So super cute, love these. They're a great size for adults, also for kids. So like obviously they'll be bigger on a child than they are an adult, but if you like cottagecore or like the dark academia or witchcore, any of those types of different aesthetics, these are super cute. So without further ado, I will go ahead and start showing you what I'm using today to make these. You don't need a sewing machine for these. You will need needle and thread, and of course whatever fabric you're choosing, you're going to need some hair clips. So depending on the size of the bow that I'm making, I have either a smaller clip, and how big are these? These are 2-inch. Yeah, these ones are 2-inch hair clips. And then these are 2.5, I think. No, these ones are 2 1/4. So 2-inch or 2 1/4 inch, they're pretty close in size, as you can see. Let's see it better that way maybe. I don't know, my hands are in the way. What else? Oh, hot glue gun. So I do prefer a hot temp glue gun, and then of course glue sticks. And then you'll also need a lighter so that you can actually heat seal the ends of your ribbon so it doesn't fray all over the place. You will need a glue, like a fabric glue. This one's from Hobby Lobby. It's API's Crafter's Pick. If you are doing a dark fabric with the glue, if you put too much on and then you press really hard initially, it will seep through the front and you'll have this weird, like, I don't know, weird look to the fabric. So I'll show you what I do to avoid that. And then of course you'll also need your ribbon and, you know, your color choices. So, oh, and fabric scissors. I'll definitely need fabric scissors. Let's see what else. These are my fabric only scissors. Everyone in my family knows, do not touch these. These are Italian, I think it's Giger or Geiger. No, I'm goofy. Ginger. They're extremely, well, for me they were spendy, but yeah, so a good quality scissor, whether you're using Fiskars or whatever, just make sure that they're good for the fabric. If you are cutting out fabric, I use a mat and a roller cutter. It's a lot faster. If I'm sitting at my desk working, because a lot of these hair bows actually get made while I'm working, I use a flat iron to do my ironing for me. And I use just a ruler and these to cut out my bow fabric. So I mean, you can do it however you need to, however you want to, with whatever supplies you have available, but I'll show you how I do it. And hopefully you find it helpful. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so this is the basics of what you will need, and then I will also be showing you how I get my fabric ready, and it's pretty much the same for all the different fabrics that I use. So the first thing is the fabric that I use to make my hair bows is typically 4 inches by 8 inches, or thereabouts, as close as I can get to 4 by 8. Sometimes it's a little bit over, sometimes it's a little bit under, it doesn't really matter. So here I'm just kind of looking at this fabric, and this is actually some Harry Potter fabric that I had from back when we still made face masks, so I think I said that in the very beginning too. And unfortunately I can't find this fabric anymore, and I don't even know what I had this fabric cut out for. Apparently I was going to make something and I just never got to it, so there's that, which actually happens quite a lot. Just gotta trim the edges up and try to get them as even as possible. And let's see, so I'm gonna iron it. Now you can use the steam setting or not use the steam setting, it doesn't really matter for this part. And then I just kind of fold it up, I guess maybe 1/4 of an inch, maybe a little less, just kind of depends. With this one I did notice that the cut was still a little bit off, because again I had used pinking shears on this one for whatever project I was going to use it for, and sometimes the pinking shears kind of leaves it not quite cut quite as I would want it, so I do trim that up a little bit, and you'll see that here in a second. But just a little bit of a trim, and that makes all the difference in the world once I can figure out how to get to where I can do that, because right-handed brain is having some difficulties. But eventually we do get it figured out, so that's always a good thing. Much better. So then, like I said, 1/4 of an inch, just kind of fold that up, and I just kind of finger press it initially. And I do apologize if I'm on kind of off camera here a little bit. But there's that. And then I just do the same down here, finger press it. Now you can totally skip this step, like you don't have to do this step. I find it works really well with dark fabrics, and it just makes my life so much easier when I go to glue later. If I already have it pressed. When I'm doing this from my desk, I just use my old flat iron, because I don't straighten my hair anymore, and that works really well too. And then I will fold it in half, and hopefully, if I did it right, my edges should line up, and they do, so that's good. And then I'll just press it in half, because I need to know where that center is. It'll make more of a difference later than it does right now. That was what I was working on before. Okay. It is the same regardless of what color fabric you're using. So I had already glued this one down, and then I just heat seal it with the fabric glue. And this has worked really well for not getting that weird seepage issue through the back side of the glue onto the front, so you don't see anything weird on that. And then I will just press in my crease again, make sure that's nice and present, and I'll show you here how I set it up so that I could do the pinch in the center. But yeah, so then what I do for this is, hopefully you can see, and hopefully I get it on camera at some point, I just add a little bit of glue to the folded edge, so not actually on the main body of the fabric, but on the part that I'm actually folding over. I just put a thin little bead of glue. And then I just kind of barely just tack that in place, just kind of just touch it and let it kind of start to do its thing. And you'll see it doesn't, of course, actually adhere, but it will with the iron in just a second. And again, I do it this way. You don't have to do it this way. This just works for me. I'll do a whole stack where I'll iron them all, and I'll iron essentially what would be considered the seam allowance. And then I get all that done, and then I go back in with the glue, and then I get all that done, and then I go back in with the iron. And I do them kind of in mass that way. And you can see there's a tiny little bit of seepage there, but you probably won't notice because of the pattern of the fabric. But there'd be so much more if you sit there and you like press on it. It happens whether you're using like a white glue or a clear glue, it doesn't really matter. It's just the nature of it. So that one is done. And so what I do is I fold the two ends into the center, and I want them to overlap just a tiny bit, just enough for me to catch them when I sew them. And so that's just me basically describing all of that. And so you just want it to barely like kind of cross over. And still keep it straight. So you see that? They're just barely overlapping. So really not too much of an overlap, which works out really well. And I just put a pin. And then I check the back side because I make sure that my pin actually went through the center, and it did, which is what we want. All right, and then here's where you're actually gonna need your needle and thread. I don't necessarily stitch my pieces together thinking that I'm going to pull the string to make the pinch. I usually just do a manual, like a hand pinch, just to make sure that everything is as even as I want it to be. And then just kind of a regular running stitch, pretty basic. And I go all the way across. I don't count how many stitches. I'm just trying to get everything kind of gathered together and to make sure that my ends are still tucked in where they need to be. And then, of course, once I get to the pin, I can remove the pin, and then I just proceed all the way across. Pretty basic. So yeah, you don't have to be like a master seamstress to do these projects at all, but I think every step, even though it's a little more time consuming, I think makes a huge difference. And I think that the end result is my hair bows come out super cute. Now I did knot it there just to make sure it doesn't like, wiggle around on me. And then I just hand gather my center there to make the pinch. And usually it's not this big of a problem to do this, except the fabric that I was working on was kept grabbing, and that was giving me a bit of a trouble. And so I look at the front. If I don't like the front, then I just kind of adjust my pleats, because that's basically what you're doing, is you're just pleating it to make the pinch in the center. And then I pull my string, and then I will wrap tightly around that middle once I get everything lined up and adjusted to the way I want it to look. I gotta check to make sure my bow ends are meeting and they look right. And then I'm gonna tie that off and just knot it through the back. And you just kind of, just a couple of times is plenty. because I'm also going to be attaching the ribbon. Now, I had been using fabric to make the centers, and that was fine. I find the ribbons to be a little bit easier, and I think it looks nicer at the end. I think the end result is, it just looks more finished and more polished, I guess. But there's your nice big bow. And this one's a little bit larger than some of my mini ones. And I just thought they were super cute. More of like the grown-up size of a bow. Trim that off. All right, so now we're going back to this one. I'm going to show you again with the iron. And I don't know if I took it off the paper because I put it back on the paper afterwards because I remember, oh yeah, the paper is heat proof, and that way you can see it better. And so they're all pretty much basically the same. And I had was making these to take to the market. And by the time you see this video, the market has already come and gone, but I had made over 100 different bows for the market, and it was actually kind of impressive how many bows I had for our first ever farmers market. And a lot of people bought bows, and they really liked the bows. So I thought that was pretty awesome. And I had a lady who had taken a business card because her sister actually is a cheerleader for OSU, which is like one of our big colleges here. And she had seen my OSU scrunchie. And of course I forgot the OSU hair bows I had made because, you know, that's me. But anyway, so she took our card because she wants to see if her sister would be interested in getting some for their team, which I thought was awesome. And so yeah, so here's where you're going to need your hot glue gun, and you're going to need some ribbon. And my hot glue gun just never wants to stand up. It's like the most annoying thing ever. My husband made me a stand thingy for it, but I don't know if he was thinking I had a bigger glue gun than I do or what, but yeah, that's a crystal that he found for me. That will help hold up the glue gun. Okay, so now we're going to work on adding the ribbon, and I'll show you how I wrap the clip as well as how I wrap the center of the ribbon, or the center of the hair bow, whatever. Okay, so this is how I kind of basically measure how much ribbon I'm going to need to cover my clip. It's not super complicated, but just kind of wrap it loosely, kind of, you know, eyeball it, get an idea of how much I'm going to need, and then trim off what I think I will need. And then I will heat seal both of those ends. And my overhead fan is on, so of course, you know, there's that. And then kind of guessing how much ribbon I need for the center. On some of the bigger ones, I did 2 wraps. On some of them, I did 1 wrap. It just kind of depended on how big the bow was and how I wanted the ribbon to look when I did it. So once again, we're going to heat seal. I'm looking at that big old knot right there. Didn't want that there. Now, you can do this however you choose to do it. This is just what works for me. And of course, I'm off camera again. But if you've ever used a hot glue gun, you probably understand. But like I said, for some of them I did a single wrap, others I did a double wrap. It just kind of depended on the bow and how I felt it looked and what it needed. Now, you don't have to have a glue gun for this. I mean, you could literally just wrap the ribbon around it and then on the underside stitch it. You could like stitch it closed. Now, I realize here that I didn't pull that first loop or that first wrap tight enough. It still works and it's fine, but keep that in mind if you want to make sure that you keep everything as tight as possible when you're doing this. Or cut yourself some extra ribbon and trim off any excess that you don't need, which would have been a better option. There you go. Initially, I had used black ribbon for that first Harry Potter one, but then I decided I really like the blue. And I hate that short glue sticks never seem to want to like do what I want them to do. So that's how I connect two glue sticks so it doesn't flop out on me. I could just buy longer glue sticks, but I never think about it when I'm grabbing a package of glue sticks at the checkout. Because usually when you go to like Hobby Lobby or any other craft stores, they always have them right there by the checkout. And I always think, oh, I'll just grab a bag of glue sticks real quick. And so that's kind of what I do. And then I realize, oh, well, that wasn't very helpful. So I have since discovered that it's actually easier just to put the glue onto the clip itself. But yeah, so put some glue on there. Now, I do it this way because I find that it's easier to get it lined up and it works really well. But I did discover that if you put the glue onto the actual clip itself, it is even easier. This is kind of the thing. And by wrapping the ribbon around the clip, it also makes it easier to adhere the clip to the bow. And I really think it just kind of gives it a much prettier look than just a raw clip. And like I said before, I was kind of just, I'd make my loop with the fabric and then I just kind of push the clip through. And I've actually discovered this is much more secure and it just looks better. It looks more polished. So when you have extra hot glue like that and it's hard to pull off, I just heat it with my lighter and then just, roll it off with my finger. I'm pretty sure that everybody that makes bows has their own way of doing it. This just works for me and it's how I like them to look. It's what I have always done for my ribbon bows, but I had never really done it for my fabric ones. And then I decided that, well, if I do it for the ribbon ones, I don't know why I don't do it for the fabric ones too. And that's kind of what started this whole thing. And then when I was done, I really loved how it looked. And it's just so much prettier, I think. I mean, and you don't necessarily see all of this when you're wearing the bow. But I think even just sitting, on a counter or whatever, they looks prettier. So once this part's done, then I just kind of glue it to the back of the bow. And Bob's your Uncle Finney's Rant. It's all done. So real quick, just going back to the market. We actually had a really good weekend at the market, which was nice. And so I think for first time
going to a farmer's market like that and setting up with things that we had made ourselves. I think it went really well, and I can't wait for the next one. Since this, we've actually made a beautiful upcycled wind chime, kind of like a sun catcher thing, using some vintage chandelier parts. So we actually have like the crystals, and it's gorgeous. It sparkles so beautifully. So didn't record us making that one, but I'm definitely gonna record us making some other ones, and then I'll post those as well. But it came out really, really pretty. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. Super simple. I kind of fluffed the bow because, you know, I like it to look a little more fluffy on the front. Just kind of fix the pleats a little bit. So yeah, so I just kind of keep fluffing it up and trying to get it to look the way I want it to. And then once it's done, it's done. Voila. Big bow, little bow. So thank you guys so much for being here, and I hope you found this helpful. If you had any questions about how to make bows, I hope I was able to answer them for you. You know, if you have any other questions, leave those down below. And as always, thank you guys so much for being here. And until next time,